welcome to the deep dive. We're really glad you're here with us today because we actually already know a little something about you.
We do.
Yeah, we do. As a curious learner, you're someone who is just constantly consuming information.
Right.
You're likely taking in, mountains of data on grammar rules, and you're probably memorizing these vast lists of vocabulary words. And you're reading all sorts of complex materials to improve your English skills. You put in the hard work behind the scenes.
He really put the hours in.
But there is this universal roadblock that almost everyone hits at some point, no matter how much they study.
Oh, absolutely.
You do all this preparation, you step out into the real world, you open your mouth to actually speak to someone, and suddenly...
Your mind just goes completely blank.
Completely blank. Everything you studied just vanishes.
It is an incredibly frustrating experience because you have the tools right there in your head.
Yep.
The vocabulary is sitting right there in your memory, but accessing it in that high-pressure moment feels completely impossible. It's a very specific type of paralysis.
Exactly. And that paralysis is exactly what we are focusing on today.
Right.
We are looking at excerpts from a presentation called The Art of Starting English Conversations, which features insights from the learning material.
It's a great source.
It really is. And our mission for this deep dive is to deconstruct the hidden mechanics of starting a conversation in English.
Because it's not about the grammar.
No, we are not going to be talking about memorizing complex grammar structures today. This is entirely about overcoming those psychological hurdles and using practical, simple strategies to just break the ice.
To just get started.
Okay, let's unpack this. There is a striking point made right at the beginning of our material today.
Yeah, the part about comprehension.
Right. It notes that learners often have excellent comprehension. They understand English very well when they hear it. They know the grammar rules inside and out. But the second they meet someone and want to initiate a chat, a very real, almost physical panic sets in.
Yes.
They want to speak, but the bridge between knowing the language and actually using it just collapses entirely.
And when we look at why this happens, it really comes down to basic human psychology.
Right.
This intense discomfort usually boils down to two main fears. First, people are absolutely terrified of making mistakes.
Yeah, they view every single sentence as a potential failure.
Exactly. And second, they are constantly worrying about what the other person is thinking of them.
The judgment.
The judgment.
Yeah.
It is this dual anxiety, the internal fear of error and the external fear of judgment, that creates a massive cognitive wall.
Wow, a cognitive wall.
Yeah, because when your brain is wrapped up in that level of anxiety, your prefrontal cortex essentially shuts down your access to all that vocabulary you spent hours studying.
So it's not just forgetting, your brain is actively blocking it.
The fear is so strong, it literally stops people from speaking.
Yeah.
But there is a golden rule to keep in mind here from the source material. Communication is vastly more important than perfection.
Let's play devil's advocate for a second, though.
Sure.
It's really easy to say communication over perfection, but when you are the one standing there, tripping over your words, it absolutely feels like the other person is judging you.
Of course it does.
Doesn't it feel like they're noticing every single misplaced verb?
It feels that way to the learner, yes,
Yeah.
because the learner is hyper-focused on the mechanics of the language.
Right.
But think about the native speaker's perspective for a moment. When native speakers talk to you, they're not sitting there with a mental red pen grading your grammar.
They aren't grading you.
Not at all. They simply want to understand the thought you were trying to convey.
Yeah.
In fact, most people are actually quite happy when someone is making the effort to try and speak their language. The anxiety you feel is almost entirely internal.
We project it.
We project this massive expectation of perfection onto the interaction. We assume the other person demands flawless English, when in reality, the other person just wants to connect on a human level.
The other person just wants to connect. I think that is a vital shift in mindset.
It changes everything.
But if we accept that they just want to connect, how do we actually initiate that without triggering the panic response?
Well, you have to start small.
Right. The material lays out a progression of strategies, starting with the fact that simplicity is key. The easiest way to start a conversation is with a simple greeting.
Very simple.
We are talking about the sheer power of very small words. Just saying hi, or hello, or good morning.
Yes.
Now look, we know you already know how to say hello or how are you. You learned that on day one of studying English.
Literally day one.
But what is pointed out here in the source is that we often abandon these simple tools because we think we have outgrown them.
We think they're too basic.
Exactly. We think we need to prove our advanced vocabulary right out of the gate.
And that is exactly where the cognitive overload happens. We really need to stop viewing hello as beginner vocabulary and start viewing it as a psychological tool to just test the waters.
I love that.
I like to think of this with a specific analogy. You have to view these simple greetings not as some grand test of your language fluency. They are simply turning the handle on a door.
Just turning the handle.
That is all they are. You are not trying to walk the person through the entire house yet. You are just opening the door a tiny bit to see if the other person is receptive.
To see if they even want to talk.
Right. These small words are highly effective precisely because they act as low-stakes door openers.
And once that door is cracked open, the follow-up is equally low stakes.
Very low stakes.
After greeting someone, you just ask, "How are you?" And the answers to this question are just as basic. Phrases like, "I'm good, thank you," or "I'm doing well."
Right. While these small exchanges might seem incredibly basic to a seasoned learner, they are the vital, required beginning of any conversation.
You can't skip them.
You can't. You have to start small to signal to the other person that a conversation is beginning and to signal to your own brain that it is safe to start speaking.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because you don't even need to ask a direct question about the person to start a chat.
No, you don't.
You can rely entirely on your surroundings. You can just talk about the situation around you.
This is a highly effective psychological tactic. Making a small comment about your shared environment completely bypasses the pressure of a formal introduction.
Yeah.
You could say, "The weather's really nice today." Or, "This campus is very beautiful."
Keep it relevant to where you are.
Exactly. Or you can ask a situational question. If you are at a university, you might ask, "Is this your first class today?" If you are in a cafe, you could simply state, "This place has great coffee."
I hear that, and I know it works, but if I walk up to someone and just say, "The weather is nice," isn't there a risk of sounding kind of cliche?
Sure.
Does talking about the weather actually lead to a real conversation, or does it just make me sound like I don't have anything interesting to say?
It sounds like a cliche because it is one, but that is actually its secret weapon.
Oh, really?
Yes, you aren't trying to be highly original in that first moment. You're relying on a highly predictable social script to bypass language anxiety.
Because it's predictable.
Exactly. When you speak in a second language, your brain's cognitive load is maxed out.
It's working so hard.
By anchoring the topic to your immediate physical environment, like the coffee or the weather, you remove the burden of context switching. You are giving your brain a break so it can focus purely on the vocabulary.
That makes a lot of sense. You are taking the spotlight off yourself.
Exactly. When you comment on the weather or the coffee, you are placing the focus of the interaction onto a shared environment. You are both experiencing the cafe. You are
Wow.
both experiencing the beautiful campus. By directing the attention outward to a third object, it naturally invites the other person to respond in a relaxed way.
You aren't interrogating them.
Right? You aren't demanding a complex, personal answer about their life. You are just acknowledging a shared reality. It lowers the stakes of the interaction to almost zero.
You are standing next to someone, the focus is on the coffee, and suddenly you are talking without even realizing you have started a formal conversation.
Exactly.
But then once that initial ice is broken, how do we keep the momentum going without our brains freezing up again?
You have to shift the weight.
Right. The material gives us some advice on shifting the burden of the conversation. The strategy is to use easy, open-ended questions to keep things moving.
Questions like, "Where are you from?"
Or, "What do you study?"
Or, "What do you do for work?"
Yeah, these are very common, expected questions when meeting someone new.
What's fascinating here is how this directly connects to the human ego.
The ego.
Yes, people generally enjoy talking when someone genuinely listens to them. It is a fundamental truth of human social dynamics.
We all need to be heard.
By asking these easy questions, you are allowing the other person to talk about a subject they are an absolute expert in. Themselves. And once they start talking, you just need to show active interest.
How do you do that naturally?
If they tell you about their job, you respond with, "That sounds interesting. What do you like about it?"
Okay.
If they mention a hobby, you say, "That's cool. How did you start doing that?"
But if I am just asking questions and letting them talk, am I actually practicing my English?
Yes.
Am I not just avoiding the hard work of speaking?
You are still doing the hard work, but you are shifting the type of work you are doing.
Okay, explain that.
Listening comprehension and appropriate responding are huge components of fluency.
True.
By showing that active interest, you are effectively getting the other person to do the heavy lifting of the conversation generation.
They are doing the talking.
You are tossing them little conversational softballs, and they are providing the narrative.
I like that.
You are practicing your listening skills, you are staying engaged, but you are not struggling to come up with long, complex sentences on the fly.
You aren't exhausted.
Right. You are steering the ship, but they're providing the engine power. It is a highly strategic way to maintain a conversation while keeping your own stress levels very low.
Speaking of complex sentences, we have to talk about a massive misconception that so many dedicated learners fall into.
Oh, the vocabulary trap.
Yes, there is this widespread belief that if you are studying English, you absolutely must use difficult, advanced words in order to sound intelligent.
It is a very common trap. Learners study high-level vocabulary. They memorize these intricate grammatical structures.
Oh, those conditionals.
Exactly. And they feel like if they don't use those big words in casual conversation, they are somehow failing or sounding uneducated.
But the reality argues the exact opposite. Simple English is very often the best English.
Always.
Clear and direct communication is always better than a complicated, convoluted sentence.
Keep it simple.
Instead of trying to construct some elaborate, grammatically dense thought to impress someone, you can literally just say, I like this place.
Or this class is interesting.
That's it. You do not need a massive academic vocabulary to be an effective communicator in daily life.
It comes back to the core idea we discussed earlier, communication over perfection.
Right.
The goal of a casual conversation is to be understood and to share a moment, not to sound like a walking dictionary.
Nobody wants to talk to a dictionary.
Exactly. Using simple, clear language ensures that your message gets across without you getting tangled up in grammatical anxiety.
Yeah.
When you try to force complex words into a casual chat, you actually risk alienating the other person or making the conversation feel unnatural and strained. Clear is always better than clever.
Okay, so you've opened the door, you're talking about the weather, you are using simple English, you are asking them about their hobbies, and then
Nothing.
the conversation just stops. Nobody says anything. We need to talk about normalizing silence.
The dreaded awkward pause.
It's the worst.
It is universally feared in any language, but especially when you are speaking a second language.
It really is. Your heart drops into your stomach, the silence stretches out, and your immediate thought is, oh no, I've ruined it. I ran out of vocabulary and now they think I'm weird.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, conversation is a rhythm.
A rhythm, yeah.
It is not a continuous, unbroken stream of noise. There are natural lulls.
That's a good point.
The panic sets in for a language learner because they misinterpret that normal silence as a personal failure on their part.
They blame themselves.
They think the silence is happening because their English isn't good enough. But a few seconds of silence is completely normal.
It's just a pause.
It is just a natural breath in the dialogue. It does not mean the conversation is failing.
That is a very comforting perspective. But how do you recover from it? When the silence happens, how do you start the rhythm again without looking panicked?
You do not need to panic or scramble for a complex topic. You simply drop in a new, broad question to reboot the system.
To reboot it.
Something as simple as, so what do you like to do in your free time?
Just so what do you like to do in your free time?
Yes. It is broad, it is open-ended, and it completely resets the momentum of the interaction.
It just shifts the gears.
It invites the other person to bring up a new topic of their choosing. It proves that a moment of silence is not a dead end. It is just a yield sign before you change direction.
I love that.
You take a breath, you ask a broad question, and the rhythm starts again.
So what does this all mean? We have all these practical concepts. Using simple greetings as door handles, relying on situational awareness to lower cognitive load, shifting the conversational burden with easy questions.
Leaning into simple English rather than complex grammar.
Yes, and redefining silence so we don't fear the awkward pause. How do we synthesize all of this into something we can actually use today?
The ultimate key is repetition in everyday environments. You cannot just understand these concepts intellectually. You have to take these theories out into the real world and test them.
And the suggestion from the source is to start with small interactions in your daily life. Practice with your classmates, practice with your coworkers, or even just try talking to strangers in a cafe.
Build the habit.
The more you practice initiating these small, low-stakes conversations, the more natural it will feel and the less your mind will blank when the pressure is on.
Absolutely.
To really drive this home, let's walk through the hypothetical, real-world blueprint provided in the learning material. It involves meeting someone new at a university.
It is a great example because it strips away all the theoretical complexity and shows exactly how these mechanics work together in real time.
With almost zero cognitive load.
Exactly.
Right. So you are sitting in a classroom, you meet someone new, you start with a simple greeting, combined with situational awareness. You turn to them and say, "Hi, I'm Emma. Are you in this class too?"
Notice what is happening there. It is grounded entirely in the shared environment of the classroom.
Very situational.
There is no complex grammar. It is a simple yes or no question based on the immediate physical reality.
Then the other person replies, "Yes, I am." And then you immediately follow up by shifting the burden and asking an easy question.
You pass the ball.
You ask, "What are you studying?" And just like that, the conversation has officially started.
That's all it takes.
It is friendly, it is completely natural, and it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that starting a conversation requires absolutely zero advanced grammar.
The mechanics of it are incredibly straightforward. Greeting, situational anchor, easy follow-up question.
Boom, you're talking.
That is all it takes to cross the bridge from silence to connection. Everyone has to start somewhere. The key is to keep things simple and, most importantly, to not be afraid of making mistakes.
Because everyone makes them.
Mistakes are an inherent, unavoidable part of the learning process. The more conversations you start using this simple framework, the more confident your brain will become that speaking English is a safe activity.
It really is a completely different way to look at using a language. You are not performing for an audience.
No.
You are just connecting with another human being in the simplest way possible.
This raises an important question. Building directly on the assertion that mistakes are just part of learning, and that simple English beats complex, intelligent-sounding sentences every time, we really have to rethink our entire approach to language learning.
How so?
We spend so much time terrified that a simple vocabulary word or a tiny grammatical mistake will make us look foolish.
We really do.
But if the ultimate goal of language is simply human connection, what if letting go of the need to sound intelligent is actually the smartest communication strategy you could possibly use?
That is such a powerful thought to leave on. If you just let go of the ego, let go of the need for perfection, and lean into the simplest words you know, the whole world opens up to you.
It really does.
You stop being a student taking a test, and you just become a person talking to another person. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope this gives you a fresh perspective on how you approach your daily interactions. We want to encourage you to step out there, embrace the simple words, do not fear the awkward pauses, and just start talking. Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep speaking.